Well, now that we've got all of our curves drawn out, there's just a few things that we need to take care of to prepare these curves to create our base geometry. Okay, so here are the curves that we have. If you'll notice, I've drawn a couple of extra curves. This is scene file 6, which is in there. If you take a look at that, I drew one here from the back of the wheel arch to the back line here, and then one underneath here, just to kind of fill this out. All right, so we've talked about the advantages of using NURBS to create this base geometry, and there are a couple of disadvantages to using a NURBS. Okay, so if I bring in a NURBS plane here, just to illustrate this, you can see that it's just a square patch. Even if I bump up the resolution, it's always going to be a square patch, 4 corners and 4 sides, and that's what this geometry that we're going to build is going to have to conform to. Okay, so it has a little bit less flexibility than using polygons, but we'll be able to convert that at some point and get into using the advantages of polygons as well. So, but right now, we're going to build these NURB surfaces from these curves. It's going to have to conform to being a square patch. Now, the patch can be differently shaped. The corners can be, in different spots, but essentially, it's always going to be a square patch. So we need to look at how we can change up our curves in order to take advantage of that and in order to get things to work correctly. Okay, so what that means is the opposite sides of the patch are going to need to have the same number of CVs. Okay, so there's a U in the NURBS space, there's a U and V. So along our curves, we just have the U here. You can see we've got a number of CVs. If you select the curve and hit Control A, bring up your attribute editor, you'll see that the number of spans on this one is 12. Okay, so that means that if we look at this one, this is 18, this one is 14, okay? So if we try to create a surface between these, we're going to get some really weird results because we're trying to combine something with 12 divisions, and then we're going to 18 divisions and then 14 divisions. So what we want to do is match all these up resolution-wise so that we have nice clean lines going across, nicely parameterized, okay? So I'm going to pick something like 18. I think it's a good number because if you look at it right now, if you look at our CVs, we've got some kind of irregular spacing and not a lot of CVs, which was okay for when we were actually creating those curves, but now we want them to be kind of evenly spaced and uniform. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and rebuild this guy. And rebuilding is just taking the curve. It's going to keep that curvature as much as possible, but it's going to kind of change it to the number of CVs you want and kind of space them out a little bit. We can do that under Edit Curves, and I'm going to bring up the Rebuild Curve option box here with my curve selected. And right now I just want to do a uniform, which is going to space them out evenly. I want to keep the ends, and I can set my number of spans in here. I'm going to set that to 18. I want to make sure my degree is cubic. It'll be nice and smooth. And let's go ahead and rebuild that. Alright, it doesn't look like much has happened here, but when we go in to select our CVs, you can see we have more of them, and they're nice and evenly spaced out. Okay. If we go into our attribute editor now, we can see that our spans are now 18. Okay. Let's look at this one. Like that one looks good. And if we shift select that, now if we take a look and imagine that we have geometry going between here, you can see that those lines are going to be nice and even right there. Okay. Let's just do our last one here. This is the last one we're going to use these three to create this curvature along the top here. So if we look at those CVs, you can see that they need to be rebuilt. So I'm going to go in and do rebuild again. And one thing that might happen when you do this rebuild, because we had so many CVs defining this curve right here, you might have to go in and tweak that a little bit because now we don't have as many. It's spaced them out a lot more evenly, which in this case could change the curvature just a little bit. So you can always go in and grab those points and move them around just a little bit. It doesn't have to match perfectly, but you can see we can get it pretty close here just by grabbing these points. And we've got a lot fewer of them because now they're spaced out more evenly all along the body here. Okay. All right, so we've got those prepared. We're going to loft those together to create a surface. Let's look at what we can do here. We want to actually create a square patch between this curve and this curve right here. So we need to create two ends, a side here and a side here. Right now we have this whole wheel arch, and this whole wheel arch is one piece. So right now all we need to do is go up and like the curve point right up here where this ends, and let's detach that curve. So now we have that piece separated. Let's do the same thing over here. Select a curve point right there, and we'll just detach that. All right, let's check on our resolution here. And you can see we've got, it's pretty low res, but it's going to be a little tricky. We want to match it up to this guy up here. If we count these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's say 9. Let's try that. 7 right now, so I'm going to rebuild that curve to 9. The same settings. And because we're trying to match up with a kind of a middle section, it's going to be a little bit trickier, but we'll be able to change that up a little bit when we get ready to combine all these pieces together. So let's say we're going to have that 9, so we want this to be 9 as well. I'm going to just hit the G key to repeat that rebuild. So it's rebuilt that curve down at the bottom. And let's check and see what our resolution is like over here. This is only 3. I want to bump that up a little bit. We're going to need plenty of resolution along this side. I'm going to go ahead and bump that up to something like 6. You're going to find that you're going to need to increase your resolution at various points when you're doing this model, because we're going to be adding scoops and extruding things in and adding resolution so it can be sub-D'd, and you're always going to be adding more resolution. The more resolution that you can add at this point when we do these panels is going to help, because when we're doing it in polygon mode, when you add resolution, you're going to change the shape. For instance, along this arch, right now if we add resolution along here by rebuilding this curve, it's not changing the shape. It's just adding points along this curve. If we were to have this as a sub-D shape or a poly shape that we were going to smooth, and we constantly we're going in here and adding resolution, which we're actually going to have to do a little bit of, you're going to find that the more you do that, the more the shape is going to change. It's going to get flat spots and points and things. So the more resolution that you can add at this point, the better. We'll have a chance to do that still as long as we have this as a NURB surface. But right now, let's rebuild this to 6 and work with that. Rebuild that, check it out. Okay. And we'll just rebuild this guy too, just so they match up. So you can see now, like we were looking at our NURBS patch earlier. Let me just try that again. There we go. Like we were seeing our NURBS patch earlier, you see it illustrated a little bit better here. This being the top of the patch and the bottom, and then these two would be the sides. Okay, so we've got the same number on either side, same number on the top and bottom, so that we get a nice square patch. Okay. All right, so now we have this curve, which we will work with in a little bit, and we have this curve, which we can go ahead. We know that we're going to have square patches. Right now, it's not working for us, so we need to go ahead and cut that right here, so we can make this back piece a patch by itself. I'm going to just grab the curve point right up there, and I'm going to just detach that. All right. And let's go ahead and do the same thing with this back portion. I'm going to just detach that. And then I can go in here. Looks like it's 3. We did this one as 6. Let's maybe make this one a 4. Just to get enough resolution in there. Rebuild that. Rebuild that. So now we've got matching sides here. And this guy is a 4, so let's also rebuild this guy to a 4. Alright, so these guys are going to match up nicely. Now if you look, we're going to actually have some issues here. We need eventually a line right here at this corner in order to cut that into a patch. And we'll also need a line right here at this corner where these corners meet. So basically we're going to have a piece that goes right here, stops, piece that goes up to here, stops, and then this will be a piece. But we'll be able to pull that out of this big piece. We'll be able to pull those curves out and use that as we go along. Because you'll find one of the other advantages of using a NURB surface is that, say I only have 3 curves right here, and I loft those into a surface. Now I have an option of pulling a curve out basically along any part of this surface. It's basically made up of any number of curves along here that I can just grab and pull out and use. Okay. Same goes for along the longitude here. All right. So let's see, we got those cut up and rebuilt. Let's go ahead and work with these top curves. And I'm going to just group all these together. Just hitting Control G, I'm going to group them together. I'm going to just duplicate those and scale them over an X. Alright, that's going to give me my curves because they were right at the origin. You can see there. Just flipped them over so we can get our whole curve here. And I'm going to just attach those using the blend there. Oh. Well, it looks like, let me go ahead and delete my history here. Let's try that again. Looks like we've got an extra. Well, it looks like it worked. And we'll just attach that. That one. And delete that extra one. There we go. Attach those and those. Alright, let's grab all those and delete the history on them. Alright, so now we need to look at what we're going to use to build off of. So we want this one and this one to be the same. So let me look at what our resolution is here. It's 6. But they're not spaced out that great. I'm going to go ahead and bump that up to 8. And let's make it 8. Let's make it 8 all the way across. Okay. So I'm going to just edit curve, rebuild curve, and set my settings to number of spans 8. Go ahead and apply that. You can see that it's spaced it out nice and even for us. Let's go ahead and rebuild that guy to 8. And I'm just going to rebuild all these curves down the line. Okay. It's going to give us a nice topology there with all these matching up. Okay. And now let's look at these guys right here. Alright, so let's make those, let's check that out, it's 9 right now. Let's go ahead and just bump that down to an even 8. I think it should be fine for us. I'll just rebuild that. Rebuild curve. Check that out. I think that'll work for us. When you do rebuild, especially when you go down, you might want to check out the curvature. Just make sure it hasn't changed on you. If it has, you can always just tweak it just a little bit. And let's go ahead and rebuild this guy before I start tweaking him. And let's rebuild that. There we go. And that looks pretty good. Alright, so we've got our curves kind of rebuilt and got the curves cut apart that we need. I think so. We might need to do a little bit more tweaking as we go, but in the next lesson we're actually going to start going through these curves and pulling out some base NURBS geometry that we can use for our car. Okay, we'll get right to that in the next lesson.